After an amazing intro from Pearl, I have to live up to that. Well, we'll see how it goes. A couple notes. I heard from one of my past co-ops that smartwatches are now banned during exams here at the University of Waterloo. So I feel like if I've done anything with my life, I feel like that's an amazing accomplishment. I could just drop the mic and walk off. The game that Pearl referenced is actually one of my favorite games. It's 2048. I don't know how many of you have gotten recently addicted to this, but it's now available on Pebble, and you can just waste a hell of a lot of time there. 6 years ago, I was working on my fourth-year project at Systems as an engineer in systems design. I was building a wallet computer. Now, this was the first idea. It was a computer that would sit in your wallet, and when you went to Tim Hortons and paid for something in cash, you'd be able to record how much that cost right there in your watch, in your wallet. 3 years ago, I was down in Silicon Valley building what would become Pebble. We had just gotten accepted into Y Combinator and moved down from Waterloo. And today, through some ridiculous series of events, I'm now leading a company that's about to go head-to-head with Apple and Google in a fairly large battle to see whose vision for wearable computing will prevail. It's been a hell of an interesting time. I'd say that 6 years ago, when I was sitting in Mike's garage, I would not have been able to predict where I am today. I think it's an amazing opportunity, and it's really interesting. I mean, we're one of the first hardware companies to kind of get a start on crowdfunding, on Kickstarter. But my main job is to lead Pebble. It's not necessarily to give speeches. So I'm probably not going to be the person that you look for broad generalizations or sweeping, amazing pieces of advice. I learn best through anecdotes and through little experiences, and that's what I'd like to share with you today. Some of the little experiences that I've had, little anecdotes about how we've built Pebble. So we'll start it off with a broad and sweeping generalization. The most important thing that you could do as a startup is work on product market fit. I feel like if we've done anything in the past 6 years, it was our Kickstarter project, which finally clicked. We finally figured out what we could do, how we could talk about our product in such a way that would cause consumers to be interested in buying it. Unfortunately, for you, I'm actually not going to cover this today. I think that product market fit is one of those things that was best served through experimentation and through trying things and failing and trying again and talking and interacting with customers. And you know what? You can't really get that in a session. You can probably only do that by getting out there and doing it yourself. I think Sam Altman from YC said it best. He said, a startup's main goal is to make something that people want. And this is the enigma that leads a lot of startups through their entire life. It's you're making something that people want, but what do people want? I'm going to leave that up to you guys to figure out. Instead, I'm going to talk about some of the different experiences and aspects of the business that came up after we hit product market fit. You spend hours and years in some cases trying to get to the point where you have product market fit, and you think, oh, finally, people have started purchasing my product. We're on easy street. This is it. Well, unfortunately, there actually are some other things that you have to do after having that product market fit click through. And I wanted to share sort of some of the main aspects of the business side of things that came up after our Kickstarter project. So this is something in the last 2 years that have become major components of my day-to-day job. The first is building a team. Then there's expanding your network and figuring out who you can talk to. And then there's stacking chips up and putting money away for a rainy day. These are all very important parts, and I'll jump right into them. So the team. You could say that we built our team fairly. The timing of people joining our team was fairly erratic. Up until our Kickstarter project, we had 3 full-time people. 2 years ago, we had 3 full-time people at Pebble. And then our Kickstarter happened, and the number jumped to around 10. We spent 7 or 8 months working to manufacture the very first Pebble, and with a team of around 10 to 12 people. We knew that we couldn't hire and work on the product at the same time. It's just hiring requires such a large focus. So we kept the team size sort of solid and worked our way through. We started shipping in January 2013, and then the floodgates kind of opened and the team started growing. We now have close to 80 people on the team. 50-something are based in Palo Alto, and then the remainder are spread all across the world as our remote team has grown. For us, team is something that I'm extraordinarily proud of. I think that the fact that we're doing a hardware startup has required us to have people with a whole bunch of different backgrounds, from hardware to software to electrical to industrial design to marketing to shipping. It's just an extremely broad spectrum. And one of the lessons that I learned really early is that you need to be able to rely on people, that you need to be able to build a team that can take your ideas and run with them. At first, we actually got started with some external contractors. We got started with people who were kind of contract workers, and that was good. It helped us power through the early days, but the point at which it really clicked was when we built that team of 10 people and just put our heads down and started shipping, or starting working on shipping. We do a couple things that I think are not very unique to us, but have served us quite well to help build the team. We have Friday meetings where we sit around and have lunch together, and our remote team is up on the monitor, and we get to kind of hang out for an hour a week as a team. This has shifted from, at the beginning when we were just 10 people, we kind of went around the room and talked about what we were all working on, and now it's more of a question and answer format where people submit questions during the week, and on Friday we have a pretty rapid fire, we get to blow through all of the questions that are on people's minds. I think one of the other values of Pebble is our transparency. Since we are a remote, we do have quite a few remote workers. It's really important that the decision-making process and that all of the kind of evidence that people use to make decisions is published in a broad format so that people on the team, wherever they are, can participate. We have open book, almost open book financials. We keep pretty much everything open to the company, except for a couple small things like, acquisitions and HR matters. Those are the only ones that we don't sort of actively share. But everything else, from partnerships to the status of our manufacturing line in China, it's all conveyed to our team in the best way possible, I think. We have grown. We grew strongly in engineers at the beginning. We were a 70% Waterloo engineer team for the first 10 people or so. But one of the most interesting things about our growth has been, in the last year, how we began to add kind of people outside of the engineering realm to the team. It actually started, one of the first non-engineering people that came on board was a mentor of mine. She was someone who had helped me for about 6 months before start learning more about operations and how the logistics chain of manufacturing works. And then 6 months after meeting her, I said, hey, would you just like to join Pebble as our VP of operations? And it took her a little while, but she ended up coming around to the idea. She jumped on board, and she's been leading the operations team for the last year. And that was one of the first executives that I hired. And it was interesting because executive hiring is something that you don't really train for in that early stage of working at a startup. It's mainly engineers. It's mainly people who are just going to put their heads down and code and build things. As we started hiring people outside of the kind of engineering realm, we learned more about the different ways that you can hire people. The number one way, of course, is hiring through your employees. Pretty much standard operating procedure at Pebble is the day that you start, I guess we don't literally do this, but we do shake you by the legs to let at least 4 of your friends and past coworkers fall out into the hands of our recruiters. We've had amazing success growing our team just through a friend and family network, a couple family members as well. But that has allowed us to keep the culture and keep the idea of engaged, strong hackers building things constant as we grew from 3 to 15 to 80 people. I don't know the exact numbers, but I think a rough guesstimate would be that more than 50 to 60% of the people working at Pebble came from some node on the network earlier and got pulled in by their friends. Another amazing network is your mentors and advisors. We have been lucky enough to bring on board several board members and advisors who worked at large companies in the past, like Palm and Flip. I think one of the guys that I met just at a hackathon once was the founder of Flip Video, which is that little camera that was super popular for a couple of years until the iPhone came along. He had built this entire network and entire company of hardware and software engineers, and I was able to kind of start working my way through it, hiring a director of manufacturing from his network, hiring some of our engineering program managers. But I think one of the most interesting anecdotes about hiring was from reading this website called folklore.org. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of it before. It's this amazing series of stories from the early days of the Macintosh, back in 1983, 1982, when there was a team of 20 people working in a building in Cupertino on the Mac. Well, one of the guys, Andy Hertzfeld, wrote a series of really interesting short stories, true life stories about what it was like to work on that team. And I started reading this. I ended up reading the entire website in like 36 hours or something like that. And then I had the idea, there's all these names that came up of people who had built products that were very similar to Pebble in terms of the technology, just in a bigger box. Why couldn't I just email them and ask them for feedback or questions? And so I did. I emailed a bunch of them, and as I should have imagined, the majority of people emailed back. People are, if you give them the chance, people are amazingly friendly and happy to share their information and their advice. So I emailed a guy named Bruce Horn, who was 19 when he was working on the original Mac. He wrote Finder, if anyone remembers the original. Well, I guess it's still called Finder, but the original Finder on Mac OS was written by this guy. And I emailed him. We had lunch. He ended up giving us recommendations on how to build a resource manager for Pebble. But more importantly, I think he showed that you can connect with people who've done it before and just get their advice on large aspects of your business. The second major aspect of the job that I like to talk about is the network. And this is not just figuring out how to set up Wi-Fi in your office, but really how do you learn from past mistakes and past examples of success? For me, the biggest network has been the Y Combinator network, and this is an amazing opportunity that I had when moving down to the Valley. I pretty much knew no one, and then after joining this incubator, this accelerator program, I tapped into a broad spectrum of entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs generally, who were in the thick of it. They were the ones who were actually solving problems and building things as they went. I cannot place enough value on being able to have an email list of 500 people that you can reach out to with problems and get their feedback on things that they've gone through that you're now going through. I know that Velocity, a program that I went through back in 2008, has actually started a similar network where you have an email list that has many of the graduates on it, and I would just recommend try to connect to as many entrepreneurs as possible and be open and honest and transparent, because at the end of the day, they've probably solved a lot of the same problems that you're working on solving. On the developer side of things, this has been another area that we've spent a lot of time. Since we're building a platform, something that other people can hack and build on top of, we've had to extend our network to get in front, really, of as many developers as possible. This is a photo of our first annual, maybe biannual, Pebble Developers Retreat. These are the top 50 Pebble developers from around the world who are hacking on Pebble and building Pebble. We flew them in from as far away as, I think, Germany and Russia, and we just spent a couple days hacking on the newest API that we had built and getting their feedback and a lot of bug reports. We got this idea from Twilio. They did the same thing whenever they released a new API, and they just wanted to be able to get as many developers in front of it as possible while they were getting feedback. And then just to touch on that, the network of people who can give you feedback. This is a screenshot of my email from just the weekend, and you could see how honest and open people are on this email chain. And it's really cool because it shows you that regardless of what stage your startup is at, the problems that you face are generally pretty similar. And the solution to a lot of these problems always starts by recognizing that you have a problem and then reaching out into the network to help try to solve it. So one good example would be just last year, we were running into a bit of a supply crunch on one of the components inside, a display component inside our product. And we had a problem to solve, which was get more displays. And as usual, the first thing that I think about is reaching out to the network that I have and just asking if anyone has a fairly high-level contact at our display company. Within 6 hours, someone pings me back and says, yeah, I went to business school with this guy who on LinkedIn knows, the CTO or something of the display company. And within 12 hours, I was on the phone with the guy, and we were working through the problem. And I would think that if that anecdote speaks for anything, it's the idea of asking people for help and reaching out, and the odds are you're probably going to be able to get it. Now, the money question. How do you get money? For us, the recurring theme over the 6 years of doing Pebble has been a failure to attract money from traditional sources and a surprising ability to get it from non-traditional sources. I think that the classic example of a startup that launches, gets a lot of press, raises millions of dollars from VCs is the extraordinary outlier in the grand scheme of things. You think about Silicon Valley, you think about Sand Hill Road, and you think about people walking away with checks after making an hour-long pitch, and it's just not true. I know from the ground that the majority of startups that are successful today came into existence through non-traditional means. Just look at the rise of crowdfunding. Just look at the rise of sort of low-cost, like highly motivated people who are doing anything they can to get the job done. Actually, I was chatting with Carol. I think it was 5 years ago that we hung out. And one of Carol's pieces of advice that has stuck with me is be as frugal as possible with your company. Keep as much money in the company as possible. And I think that that's definitely a trait that we play through these days. So for us, the money didn't come from VCs. It came from backers. It came from Kickstarter backers. 70,000 backers around the world. And I think what this speaks to is the idea that that it's not up to startups just to be innovative on product and on services that they provide. It's also essential to be innovative on the business model. This is somewhere that big companies just cannot compete. They have entrenched supply chains, they have entrenched distributor networks and salespeople. They have to make money in the same way that they always make money. And it's very hard for them to shift their focus. And so for us, starting on Kickstarter, starting with the support of people like you all around the world, we've been able to keep that going. Now we're thinking about non-traditional business methods. We're thinking, how can we make money just by selling our product directly to consumers? As I was mentioning before, we actually do a lot of sales on our website. We sell more than 50% of our product just directly on our website to people around the world. We ship to 150 different countries. And in the future, we're thinking about ways that people can buy Pebble, not just in retail stores, but through apps. Like, for example, there's a really popular Runkeeper app for Pebble. It's possible that in the future you might just be able to buy a Pebble from within the Runkeeper app. I mean, those are the people that are going to be best engaged with the product once it arrives, so it's a great opportunity for us to sell the product through to them right inside the app. And so we're always thinking, what are different ways that we can make money rather than different ways that we can raise money. At the moment, Pebble is a product. We've started shipping our second product, but our vision and our dream is to create a platform that powers wearable computing of the future. We think that developers and users are the two most important things that we could be focusing on right now. In order to build a platform, you have to build a developer network and a user base that can actually consume and use these apps. So our job is pretty much cut out for us right now. We have this battle coming up against Apple and Google. And if we can do our job and build an engaged user base as well as an engaged developer base that's building kind of the future of wearable computing today, then I think we'll be well on our way. But just a note as a small pitch to maybe potentially start a hardware company in the future is just one of my favorite feelings about what I do. And that's the idea that when I wake up, I get to put on a piece of technology that I had a small part, I played a small role in building. And I get to wear this on my body almost as like a testament to what I've been working on. And then going on Twitter and Facebook and seeing people who wear their Pebble and post pictures of it and share their experience with it is just one of the most awesome moments, aspects of my life. And so I'd recommend start a hardware company, get this experience. It's incredibly valuable. I'm looking forward to the panel. I think we're going to have a hell of a lot of fun chatting about this kind of stuff, and thanks very much for your time.